Welcome to Alpha Bites, where we serve up bite-sized insights to help you grow your business and your bank account. Our host, Alex Zinni, CEO of Alpha Key Digital, dives into the latest marketing trends, proven strategies, and actionable tips to scale your online presence. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just starting out, Alpha Bites delivers the keys to unlocking your success. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hi, everybody. My name is Alex Zinni, the host of Alpha Bites, and today we are in the studio live for our first ever in-person interview. Today, I'm here with Jeff Monreal of Jeff Monreal Funeral Home Services with 3 locations here in Northeast Ohio, and he's also the owner of Installed Services, Inc., which is an installation business for homes. I've known Jeff for almost going on 10 years, crazy to think. And we were introduced by John Griffin, so I want to give a quick shout out to John. John is Jeff's cousin, but he's also an incredible human being, a great business owner, and he actually introduced us. Jeff was my first client with Alpha Key Digital and my longest client, and a dear friend, so I'm so happy to have him on the show. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you, Alex.
Good to see you. So Jeff is a business owner. He's an entrepreneur. He owns a funeral home with 3 locations, and he also owns the insulation business. So those are 2 very different fields, but it's clear that you're an entrepreneur. So when did you know that you wanted to be a business owner?
I don't know that I necessarily knew. It just kind of happened. It used to snow a lot here in Northeast Ohio, and when I was a kid, I used to take my shovel out and go down the street by myself and go to houses and shovel driveways. That's how I started, probably about 8, 9 years old. And I usually would rake in about $50-$60 after a long 6-7 hour day of shoveling. And I had a route, and I did that for well into my late teens. And the snowblower came out. And I remember when I always used the shovel, and I always hated the snow blower. I always thought that was cheating. But no, that's when I knew that I had the ability to, one, communicate with adults. Mm-hmm. I was 8, 9 years old, and I would have to negotiate the price of the driveway with each adult. Once I had a customer, then I would go back to that house, and we kind of understood where things were going to be at. But so that would probably be the beginning. My family's been in the funeral home industry for 5 generations. And so as a kid, I grew up in that business. Back then they didn't have, cell phones. You had to tie the phones in. So they were always tied into our house, and there was 4 kids. And when Dad was home at night, if the phone rang, he had to answer it, and so as far as that business, I basically grew up in it. When I graduated from college, I took my first job out of college was for a insulation company. I worked for Mooney and Moses, which at the time was the largest insulation company in the state of Ohio. And nationally, they were one of the top 10. And then they were bought out by IBP. I worked for Installed Building Products for a couple of years. And then I went to Menor Lumber and worked there for 4 years. And I ran their insulation division. And then the new funeral home in Eastlake was built. I insulated it. I had the lumber delivered there, did the trim. And once that was built, my dad asked me to come on board, worked there for almost 10 years, and then went out on my own for the funeral home. So I've had my own funeral home business since 2015, and I've had my insulation company since 2005.
Wow.
Yeah.
So wow, that's... It sounds to me like you had just that natural ability to see, like when you were a kid. I can picture you being 9 years old with that shovel, knocking on people's doors and talking to strangers and forming, handshake deals and everything. Were you learning those skills from watching like your family in business, or was it something that you just kind of knew instinctually how to do?
Yeah, I played sports as a kid. I loved being outside. The thought of going out and making a couple dollars to be able to afford whatever kind of was inspiring, but yeah, it just was, I think it was kind of, I guess with being a family, being in business, that kind of propelled me as a kid to, but it was pretty simple. You went to people's houses, you negotiated, you talked to them, you treated them with decency, and you did it in a timely fashion, and you did a good job, and you had a customer. I mean, it was that simple. And I think, with that start, it kind of became natural. I soaked in good managers, bad management, as far as, in the insulation business, what I wanted to take out of that. And then I thought to myself, hey, I can do this. And I started, real small. And, it's been pretty consistent, each and every year. I have 5-star ratings. I'm huge into reviews.
Yep.
So I ask every customer after I'm done with their job if I can have a review. And that's been very successful, 5-star across the board. For the insulation company. I'm on Angie's List, a Better Business Bureau for the insulation, and Google reviews for the funeral home. And it's been good. I mean, I just try to take each and every day, each and every job as they come individually. I think that's why people like to go with me, because they get me the whole time. And that's, a lot of times people try to grow so big that they lose touch of the service end of things. And I've been good to keep that as my main focus. Some jobs you got to understand you're gonna do pretty good, and then other jobs you're not gonna do so great. And sometimes there's gonna be, things that are gonna make you want to, jump out a window and not stay in business, and that's all part of it. You take the good and the bad, and you try to keep a smile on your face. And help people out, because you never know where people are at.
Right.
Every day, like a person might be having a bad day, and so I try to keep that in mind. And some people you just don't get along with, and that's life. We're human, and but that's part of being a business owner. You realize you take the good, you take the bad, and you just try to keep it. I always try to keep it professional.
Yes, and you do a great job of being very professional and compassionate. I see in you an attitude of humility and calmness, and I imagine that in the funeral home business, that is just so crucial. To be calm and compassionate and have that humility. When you were deciding to go work with your father in the funeral home in Eastlake, was it something, because it was, so many generations in your family? I think you're a 5th generation, right? So was it something that you always knew eventually I was going to go into the family business, or was it kind of you had to be talked into it, convinced to do it?
Yeah, no, there wasn't really any talking or convincing. It was more, I was, again, when I was a young boy, probably 7, 8, 9. I can't really remember what age, but I remember being at the funeral home, and I was doing some work around the funeral home as a kid. Dad would take me to the funeral home on Vine Street, and I would listen to my grandfather making funeral arrangements. And I would just listen in. The family obviously couldn't see me. My grandpa couldn't see me, but I just wanted to hear what he was saying to them. And what attracted me was, it wasn't what he said, but how he listened. He would listen to the family. He would let them mourn. He would let them cry. He would let them grieve. And then he would continue on with the arrangement, and I think today, we get caught up in a lot, prayers and I'm so sorry. And, all those things are nice, but sometimes we just need a listening ear. And that's what attracted me to the business. When I was in insulation, the builders would scream and holler, hey, where are you? You're supposed to be here yesterday, or you're supposed to be here today. And for whatever reason, sometimes there was 10 different reasons of why you couldn't be on time to a job. But I would always call, but they didn't care, and there was no, like, when I got done, they didn't shake my hand or pat me on the back or say, thank you for your great job. So that's what I did for the first 10 years. I did builder work where I worked for custom builders. Some guys built 5 homes, some built 50. And, in the funeral home business, families are grateful and they're thanking you. They hug you, and it's all genuine. If you try to fake somebody out in this business, families can see it from a mile away. So it's all genuine. And that was learned from my father and from my grandfather and my great-grandfather. Even though I didn't know my great-grandfather, I can see it through all of them, what they were taught. So the funeral home tradition is bigger than any one person.
Sure.
And to be a 5th generation it's an honor for me. And I cherish that 5th generation because there's not too many that are, that are out there that are still going strong.
Yeah, 5 generations. That's quite a history, and a timeline there of all the different eras and the things that everyone's seen. And it's rare to have that kind of lineage that's so consistent. What's one of the things that you would say, in the funeral home business that people don't see? Like on the outside, like looking in, what's one component of the business that you find is something that people don't see, but brings you a lot of like satisfaction?
Yeah, I mean, behind the scenes, it's, getting the person prepared for when the family walks in, getting their loved one, in the casket and everything completely neat, clean, proper. I kind of treat their loved one as if it was my father or my mother. And all the preparation I do before that, making the videos and the communication with the families. I can tell them in the beginning that, hey, we're going to be talking a lot for the next 5 days or however long. Sometimes it's up to a week or longer. And, they have no idea because maybe they've had an experience somewhere else where they made the arrangements. They show up 3 days later and here's your presentation. With me, it's phone calls like, okay, when can I come get the clothing? When can I, hey, I want you to look at the video, make sure you like it. I might have something. I always try to detail orient every service, and sometimes going the extra mile if I can. For example, I had a lady that passed away, and she, her and her boyfriend loved horses, and the cemetery was in Kirtland, and the stable that they used was in Kirtland. And I knew the guy that ran the stable, and I called him and I said, hey, listen, do you think you can have her horse down at the cemetery when we arrive?
Wow.
And I told him, I'd be willing to pay for whatever that is. And he's like, no, she's been such a great, she's helped out that's an excellent idea. I'll do it for nothing. And I'll meet you there. We kept it a surprise. Wow. I talked to she adopted 2 children from another country, and I talked to them about it to make sure that they were okay with it. And her boyfriend, as they pulled up, he was just like, that was the nicest thing that, during this time to see her horse at the cemetery. So, and that's one of 50 stories of different things that I've tried to do that are different than what you would typically get at a funeral home. One other story, guy was he was big into older cars. And there was a car show across the street at Menor High School, and he loved car shows. So I went to the organizer. During the visitation, I went over there and I said, hey, I got this gentleman that's being laid out today. And he loved older cars. He has an older car. We have it parked out front. is there any way you can round up a few cars and we have a back parking lot that we can open the doors. Maybe you guys can drive by and do a little drive by during the service. Told them the time of the service, and 20 cars came.
Wow.
All older cars. We opened the door. We stopped the service and said, we have a little surprise for you. And as they were driving by, they revved their cars, and it was a salute for him. So that's the kind of stuff, I guess, the behind the scenes stuff that you don't see. I don't advertise that. I just talk about it today because you kind of asked. So, but you got to love what you do. Yeah. I really do love helping people through, sometimes the worst time in their lives. Sure. So.
That's incredible to think of the joy that you must bring to the families when you think about them, because that takes you going above and beyond really your duty. And then to find something unique like that, bringing the horse, the cars, and I've seen you do it in other things too. I was thinking of a funeral where the priest was doing Mr. Bojangles on the guitar, acoustic guitar, because that was a song that the gentleman who had passed away really liked. And I remember being at that funeral and just being like, wow, that is so unique. Like, I'll never forget that. But I'm sure there was coordination going on in your end to make that happen, to communicate that. And that really is what sets you apart. And kind of going back to, the reviews, you have so many positive reviews, hundreds of 5-star reviews online for your 3 different locations. And I think that really speaks to, how you make the families feel. What's a piece of advice that you've gotten, over the course of your career, that's really stuck with you?
Yeah. Growing up in the funeral home business, my dad was always working. He worked nights. You were always there to the entire visitation. You did all the funerals. That's just how it was done by his father and so on before that. And, I didn't want to do that with my kids. So I've made sure that I've, given time to be a good father and, a good husband. My wife, she's, we sleep in the same bed, obviously. And, I get calls at 3, 4 in the morning sometimes. And, she takes them with me because she's right next to me. So she gets woken up and it's not all the time, but it does happen. And, so you're always on call and I, that's part of the business. I understand it. I'm okay with it. But yeah, being a father, I coached my kids for 10 years and, I coached my son in basketball, football, and baseball. Those accomplishments are, some of the greatest things that I've ever done. And I enjoyed coaching the other children. And that's, I hope, down the road, those kids will become coaches for their kids and they'll understand the sacrifice and and what you get out of being a good coach, because anybody can coach their kid and other kids, but you need to spread it out so you give everybody a fair chance. And I was always fair. And I think in the end, my son Bryson will be better off for it that he wasn't just favored. I also coached my daughter in basketball and then just girls is a completely different, coaching dynamic. Yeah. You can't, like the boys, I could kind of get them fired up and get in, be a little louder. The girls, I had to be a little more gentle. So but you learn that, you learn the experiences, you learn as a first year coach what to do and what not to do. You make mistakes and that's life, but yeah, those are some of the things that I'm grateful for.
So running 2 businesses, coaching, taking care of your family, How do you balance things out in your life? What are some things that you do to help keep balance?
Yeah, like like I said, I try to prioritize. I some days I wake up and I know it's when both are going really busy. Funeral home, obviously I don't know when that's going to be busy. Some months it's you're busy every day, and then other months you're busy for a week, and then you're not busy for a week, and then you're busy. So it's really a really hard thing to juggle. But when they're both busy is when it gets a little bit tough. But I have crews that do the work for the installation. So these guys have been working together with me and for past 2 decades, and I've been in the installation business almost 30 years. Kind of crazy to think about. Before I was in installation, I did roofing during the summers in college, and had a little side painting business. We did a few of the roller rinks around. We did USA Lanes in Wickliffe, and we did a couple of them. One in Parma, and so we painted the entire exterior of the building with another gentleman. So yeah, I like being busy. I like the juggle, and I think I do it well. And like I said, you prioritize. You wake up, you get as much as you can done. It's going to be there tomorrow. You know what I mean? And when things get a little bit slow, which is not that often, that's when I catch up. I catch up on all the paperwork. I catch up on, sending things out. And, but it's just prioritizing. And if you prioritize, and you got to prioritize your life with your kids and your wife. So, and your family, your parents and all that too. So I try to do the best I can. I'm not perfect. I think that's a thing that you need to learn as a parent, as a husband, that you as much as you think you are, and I ask for God's help. I ask God to guide me, each and every day. Sometimes, I get on my knees and I've been known to look up in the air and say, please direct me, and sometimes it sounds silly, but the answer will come, and it may not be that moment, it may not be the next day, but it comes, and that's how that's how my life is guided.
It doesn't sound silly to me. It sounds like, in my experience too, having a faith has extremely been important to me personally, and obviously it sounds like you love what you do, right? So if you love what you do, then it doesn't feel necessarily like work. But when it does feel tough, like when times do get tough, and like we're all human, we have those moments. What's something that you do to help you kind of snap back and into getting productive and doing well?
Yeah, I learned in coaching the 24-hour rule. And that rule, I try to do that in my life too. So when you're younger and, as an adult, and even a young adult, and in your teenage years, it's tough. Somebody says something, you react, right? And sometimes you react the wrong way, and you react the wrong way as an adult, even until the day you die. But I've learned that if you step back, and it comes with time. And some people are born with it. I wasn't, but you just take a step back. I try to breathe a little bit and then analyze the situation. And I think once you give it that 24 hours from the moment that whatever situation it might be, your head is a lot clearer than it was instantly. I don't react like I used to react. I try to take things a day at a time, sometimes a moment at a time. And after that 24 hours, then I'm able to say, hey, listen, it's not that big of a deal. It's amazing. So that's my greatest advice. And that was taught to me by the athletic director, at St. Gabriel's years ago. He said, give it 24 hours, just don't react, whether it's a parent or a kid or, but that comes with experience.
Yeah. I really like that 24-hour rule because it really does change over time. It's amazing how even if you give it 10 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, you'll see that, like I find with myself, something that really gets me riled up, the next day I barely even remember what it was.
Yeah.
So I'm going to definitely keep that bring that into my own toolbox because that's a really good way to think about it.
Yeah. And the only other thing I would say is like, whatever somebody tells you or does to you, certain things are going to affect you, right? But if you allow it to affect you, then it's going to really affect you. But if you learn to just let things kind of bounce off you, because there's negative all around us, and it can really beat you down. It could make you want to not be in business. It could make you, it could affect your relationships, and if you just learn to like get a little thicker skin and not be, so agitated and allow that to bother you, then you'll even take that to another level. You'll learn to just let stuff bounce off you because the people who love you and care about you, and they make mistakes too, as you get older, people can't help but they start comparing themselves to each other, or they compare their children's lives or how they react or act to each other. And that can happen with siblings, and you need to, learn that you just take care of your side of the street. And if I do that, then I'm in good shape. If I start worrying about everybody else, then I'm in the wrong spot.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that hula hoop rule, right? Everything within that hula hoop you can control. Everything outside of it you can't necessarily control. So, comparison is the thief of all joy. And just you mentioning that makes me kind of think of another thing that you're really well known for is your philanthropy. You have an amazing golf outing that raises lots of good money that you donate to different causes. The Travis Mills Foundation. I know you know Travis Mills, and he's quite an inspiring vet who's seen and done a lot of different things and is very inspiring now. What is it? How do you give back to your community? What makes you want to give back so much? Because you're so great at that.
Yeah, I started in the golf outing charity business probably almost, it's going to be 2 decades next year. So 10 years, a young, or he wasn't young, he was older than me, Mr. John Vitale from the Eastlake Kiwanis got me involved with the Kiwanis, and they had a food pantry, and we started a golf outing for that food pantry, and that food pantry feeds, I believe it's up to 125 to 150 families monthly.
Beautiful.
And John said, Jeff Monreal, my boy, he says, come on, we're going to have a golf outing next year. So we did that for 10 years. I helped run that golf outing. We used to have it at Lost Nation Golf Course for most of the years. I think we did it for 10 years. And then that kind of disbanded. John passed away year 8. We had it for a couple more years. And then one of the gentlemen, Walt Ugrinick, told me, why don't you start your own golf outing? I'm like, Walt, I don't have time for a golf outing. I got, 2 jobs. I'm, 2 kids. I'm a coach. There's no more time. I can't volunteer to have my own. And he says, well, think about it, and so I did, and I prayed about it, and I said, well, okay, I'll have it for 1 year. Let's see how it goes, right? And now we're going to be on year 9, and every year we pick a different organization where the money goes. And that first year, I thought, you know what, if we make $5,000, that would probably be a really good goal to, around every year to be so we could give it to other places. I didn't want it to, get too big or whatever. And we made 7,500 for Camp Homey, Dakota, which is a camp for children with type 1 diabetes out in Newberry. And that year, which I didn't know till the next year, my best friend's daughter has type 1 diabetes, and so does his brother. But this camp is for kids that can learn how to self-administer, the penicillin. So they were in financial trouble that year, and it helped keep that camp open that year for 3 weeks.
Wow.
So it's been the greatest thing, charity thing that I've ever done. I've gotten to know so many different organizations, Parkinson's in Motion that helps out, neurological diseases, breast cancer. My sister-in-law, she had a bout of breast cancer and beat it and is in remission and doing great. We did, breast cancer. We did the Camp Homey, Dakota was the first year. Parkinson's, breast cancer. The fourth year we did Footprints for Autism, Miracle League in Eastlake, Ronald McDonald House, and last year we did Alzheimer's Association. So I might have missed one, but next year we're doing Camp Sue Osborne, which is a camp for children who have special needs. And Charlie, my man Charlie, he's 12 years old. I was so inspired by Charlie. He's at Miracle League, and 4 years ago Charlie was in a wheelchair. 2 years ago Charlie was able to use crutches on his elbows. You ever see those crutches?
Oh yeah.
So and then now he's jogging to first base.
Wow.
And he never let his ailments keep him down. A lot of surgeries, but I called Charlie's mom to make sure it was okay for, for him to be kind of the maitre d' of the golf outing next year. And Charlie's mom started crying, and she said, today's Charlie's birthday. And this is going to be his best birthday present ever.
Wow.
And Charlie's a big Indians fan. I'm hoping to get Jose Ramirez to come. But, I always like to set the limits high, but we'll see. And, I told Charlie's mom that he could pick whatever organization he wants. It could be towards his ailment, or it could be towards whatever he wants. And he picked Camp Sue Osborne. So Camp Sue Osborne, I called them. They're the woman that runs it started crying, and just gratefulness. So these things I get to witness, which I would have never witnessed had I not done what we're doing. And I get the credit, right? The credit's like, oh, Jeff, you're great. You do all this stuff. And it's all the 100 golfers. It's the sponsors like you, that, you played the guitar at many of the events. And that's, you don't charge anything. And that's what a lot of these, there's hundreds of people that are making this event what it is. So it's not just me. I'm the organizer, promoter. But I think people have found the joy in what we actually do for the golf outing, that it's growing popularity. I don't try to get crazy with what we ask for. And, some guys, it's $10, $50, $100. Other people are donating $500 to $1,000. I have a friend that donated $5,000 last year, but they're believing in the cause. It's not just me. And that's what makes it happen. Last year we raised $21,700
Nice.
towards Alzheimer's Association. The year before that we raised, I think, $21,000 for Ronald McDonald House. So we're in the 20s now. It started at 7. went to 8.5, went to 9.5. I remember the fourth year we hit 10,000. Mm-hmm. The fifth year we hit 15,000, and then it just keeps growing.
Wow.
So, so it's exciting. And Charlie is going to have the day off of school on May 19th at Mayfield Country Club. He's going to be driving around on the cart. Nice. And just seeing him smile will just make the whole event worth the time and effort to put into it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's
amazing. It started from, okay, I guess I'll do this golf outing, to now here we are going on almost 10 years, raising all this great money. And it stemmed from you saying yes. And saying yes to a greater cause is always very inspiring. I want to do a quick shout out for Jeff here, and let the viewers know that you could reach him by going to jeffmonrealfuneralhome.com. Pre-planning is a very important thing that people can do, whether it's for a family member or for yourself. Pre-planning and pre-arranging can really bring a lot of ease of mind to families and to individuals to get their affairs in order before they have to, or before you pass and your family has to deal with that. So if somebody wanted to talk about pre-arranging, pre-planning with you, what's a good phone number or email to reach you at?
Yeah, they could call me directly on my cell phone, which is what most people do. It's 440-339-7023. My email's jeff@jeffmonrealfuneralhome.com. And yeah, I mean, like you said, pre-arrangement it's such a great gift for your family. I know insurance, when people get insurance, they say it's the best gift you can give to your family. And that's how I feel about pre-arrangement is when I have a family that comes in that their mom is pre-arranged to a family that doesn't, it's like night and day. They're so grateful that mom came in to make those arrangements, or dad, and make those funeral arrangements so they don't have to come in. And sometimes, it's not always that someone's sick and they pass after a year or two. Sometimes it's sudden. And when it is sudden, it's the worst for your family, because the last thing they want to do is come see me. And when it's prearranged, all they have to do is call me. And most of everything is done. So we just pick a day, and then it takes the burden off of them from having to pick out your urn or your casket. And it's your wishes, and sometimes I get people come in, they're like, oh, I don't care. Just throw me in the lake. Just dig a hole in the backyard and throw me there. Right. And I tell them, well, do you have kids? And they're like, yeah, why? I'm like, well, it's not always just us, yeah, me, I feel the same way. Like, I don't, you can do with me whatever. I won't be around. Right. But your kids will be, and so will your grandkids. And they need some closure. And it's not a selling point. It's more of just do something. It doesn't have to be at the funeral home. It could be at your favorite restaurant. It could be at a bar. It could be at a park. We could do whatever you want to plan. I don't tell you one way or the other what you should do, but I guide you. And I think people appreciate that guidance. And I think it's important to do something. And a lot of times, 9 times out of 10, when I bring that up, they go, oh yeah, I didn't think about that. And I didn't think about my wife, how that would be for her. There was a gentleman that his wife, he told his wife for years, just cremate me. I don't even want it in the paper. I don't want anything. And he passed suddenly. She did what he wished for. And 6 months later, she sees one of her girlfriends out at the Giant Eagle, and she says, oh, hey, how's Tom doing? And she goes, oh, Tom passed 6 months ago. So every time that was brought up, that she saw somebody that didn't know about it, it was like reliving his death, over and over and over again. So whether you do nothing or you do something, it's good to notify the public, just so they can not bring it up to you. And I think it's therapeutic to have something, even if it's, again, not at the funeral home. It's really good for your family to get through that loss. And, so that's my advice.
And that's great advice too. And the one thing, that people might not think about is the funeral, the services are for the living, right? So, of course it's honoring a life, it's doing that, but it's part of that grieving process. And by pre-planning, pre-arranging, not only are you lifting a burden on your family for having to make tough decisions, because they won't have to make as many tough decisions while they're grieving, but then you can also ensure that closure, you can ensure that grieving can take place, and it's really for the family. So we'll put Jeff's information in the show notes where you can find his website, phone number, and his email. So I'm going to ask one final question. And it's going to be a little bit different from what we've been talking about. But it is just kind of just a fun question I like to ask people. What is the best concert you've ever been to in your life?
The best concert? Been to a few. I would say probably Pink Floyd when they were at the Municipal Stadium in Cleveland. And I believe that was like 1993.
Wow.
Ish,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 94.
Mm-hmm.
They were in Cleveland Municipal Stadium. It was sold out. We had awesome seats,
Mm-hmm.
And they rocked. They had, Comfortably Numb, and all the greatest hits were played. And I just always appreciated Pink Floyd. So that would be my
That's a great one. I'm jealous. I wish I could have seen Pink Floyd. That's so cool. So everybody, we've had Jeff Monreal here today. Thank you so much, Jeff, for being here.
Thank you, Alex.
Really appreciate it. And we'll see you guys on the next show.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Alpha Bites. If you found today's insights valuable, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share the podcast with your network. Let's keep the conversation going. Connect with us on social media or visit us at alphakeydigital.com/alphabites. Remember, the keys to your digital success are just a bite away. See you next time.